thank you again for joining us, for giving up your time. I genuinely see this as a massive privilege that you're coming to share with us and tell your story. We are represented tonight by about 10 different churches in the city, a number of people not attached to churches. We have got people that have travelled from the other side of the county, people that have travelled from other counties, and about 5 that have travelled from South Africa. Over a period of about 15 years, but they made it here. So let's get into it, James. So it's a privilege having you here, and obviously the purpose of this is to...
Thank you for having me anyway. Appreciate it. Yeah.
You're more than welcome. So firstly, a bit about you. James Morton, born in Bristol, of all places, in 1999, the year I sat my GCSEs. Awkward. It's your dad Hayden?
Yes.
And mum Maxine and brother Ben?
Yes.
So the 4 of you at home. So, born into a church family, tell us about your upbringing from a young age and what that looked like.
Well, yeah, like you said, I had my parents, my older brother who's 2 years older, and yeah, really privileged to have a really supportive family growing up. Very loving, very supported, like I said. And yeah, just growing up was very much, yeah, I suppose they gave me everything possible to succeed in, obviously, football, but just in general, my parents. And I have a really good relationship with my brother Ben, and we still do now. And yeah, even though I feel, although I'm 3 hours away, I still feel very much connected to them, and that comes from the upbringing, and just feel very loved and, supported in football and my faith as well, especially. They brought me up in a Christian household, both being Christians themselves. And yeah, brought me up in church, and that's sort of where it all started, yeah.
Fantastic. So church was very much a focal point for you as a young child. What church background did you come from?
So I was brought up in an Elam church, which some of you may know it as like a Pentecostal church. So yeah, it was just a local church to us, about 20 minutes away from where we were raised. And yeah, life was quite normal just to go to church. Obviously, just growing up in it didn't mean that I was a Christian myself, but it very much just felt normal to go to church every day. I knew everyone, when I went to school growing up, not everyone went to church in the primary school, say, but it felt just normal to talk about church, to say I go to church, not necessarily to say I was a Christian so much, but just to go to church. And I was very privileged to have that. I know that my parents had a very hard decision to allow me to balance football and church. For Christian parents, maybe some of you would know it's hard to choose on a Sunday, whether you choose football in the mornings or go to church in the mornings. My parents prayed about it, and after a bit of time, maybe they saw something in me, but they were just like, we'll allow you to go to church at football in the morning, but because we have an evening service on the night, the deal is you go football in the morning, but you go church in the night, which I thought was quite fair, and obviously worked out to where I am now. But at the time, it would have been difficult for them to do that. But it was sensible without me even knowing. But I felt like I was going to church just as much as football, I suppose. So that's sort of how it was growing up.
Yeah, and to put that into perspective, I think I was about 15 before my parents let me play football on a Sunday. So I know things are very different now. And with the number of services, it does make that a little bit easier to balance as well. How would you describe yourself as a person? And I say this particularly in reference to an interview you did with The Athletic, because you don't describe yourself as a footballer first and foremost, do you?
No, definitely not. The number one thing in my life I can say is to be a follower of Jesus, and obviously my characters are this and that, but yeah, definitely I'd say straight away that I'm a follower of Jesus, and football is something that I do and I love, and I'm a passionate. If I wasn't playing it, I'd be watching it every week anyway. So to do it's a job I'm very grateful to do for. But yeah, I'm definitely a follower of Jesus first and foremost, and obviously I'm a husband below that. I try my best to do that. But yeah, football is obviously a big part of my life anyway. But yeah, in terms of my personality, maybe I'm a bit more of an introvert. So this is a little bit different for me. But yeah, maybe laid back. Which bugs my wife a little bit as well. And yeah, I like to think that I'm approachable as well. So yeah, that's a bit of me.
Yeah, from the chatting we've done, you are a very down-to-earth, approachable guy. Really, really easy to talk to. Quite, so yeah, bit of an introvert in the way you come across. What's more difficult for you? Kicking a ball
being here tonight, yeah.
Kicking a ball around in front of 8,000 people at Roots Hall, or sitting here in front of 100 men?
Yeah, it's surprisingly being here tonight, to be honest. Just because football's comfortable for me, because it's what you're used to, but I'm not exactly done public speaking before, so do bear with me tonight.
Nor
but
have
yeah,
I. I'm making it up.
It's something, you asked me a little while ago, and I want to do it, so yeah.
Cool. You grew up in a church family, in a Christian family. Is there any point in your life that you can pinpoint where you say you actually gave your life to Jesus?
Yeah, no, I can. Like you said, and like I said earlier on, yeah, I was brought up in a Christian household, and my parents wanted to surround me in church and be as godly as they could be for me. It was, like I said, I was playing football in the mornings, church in the night, and strangely enough, even being so young, I would see a difference going to church than I would see going to football or going to school. I would just see something different in Christians, and I was, not like I thought about it like that, but looking back, I saw a difference as a child in adults, that there's something different about these people. Obviously, having early access to God and this Jesus, and being brought up in it helped to sort of understand, okay, this is maybe why people are different. And so I can remember around 8 years old, there was an opportunity after the service. My family church would do standard service, and then at the end they'd say, if anyone wants to say a prayer at the end to commit their lives to Jesus, then you can. And I just remember just saying that prayer quietly to myself around 8 years old, and just feeling really happy about it. I didn't have a clue really, but I knew something. I knew, hearing about this God and this Jesus, just there was something in it. So for me, it was my decision to be like, yeah, I want to start this journey. I didn't know how it would go, but I was interested. And I remember telling my parents on the way back from that service, I was really happy, really proud of myself, and said, I said this prayer it's probably as simple as that. And from then onwards, obviously I've gone on that journey being a Christian, and later down the line, after exams, so about 16, always surrounded by God and being a Christian, and obviously teenagers, it's not easy, and you go to secondary school and all these challenges come out, and there's all, it's life, isn't it? You're getting used to life, and that doesn't make it easy being a Christian at times and working that out, and working myself out as well as all of that. But at the end of exams, I was like, yeah, I want to get baptized. And for those that don't know what baptism is, it's a public declaration of showing the church and my friends and family that I want to live my life for Jesus the best I can. I won't do it perfectly, but I'll do it the best I can. And yeah, that's so 8, and then 16 was when I got baptized, and obviously I've been surrounded by it my whole life.
And it is really key having that family around you to support you that know that as well, because we've had some fantastic testimonies over the last couple of years of people that have had that, never set foot in a church or just didn't want to know, and have had that eureka moment almost. And we've heard some fantastic stories, but actually those that have grown up in the church can be just as interesting, because every life is different. And it's really good and key that you've got a supportive family around you doing that as well. Did you have any specific kind of Christian influences, whether it be people, worship groups, anything like that you kind of looked up to growing up?
I suppose, like I've said already, described my family. My dad's side of the family, there's a lot of Christians in that, and I was seeing role models and it getting talked about. That would naturally, as a child, sort of being surrounded by it was obviously really helpful in that way and influenced me really positively. Going to a secondary school that was, a Christian school as well on paper, and I made some really good friends in there as well. And I suppose, again, through your teens, I guess your friendship group can influence you massively in terms of what direction you may go in, I suppose. And for me, thankfully, I had a few lads that I got on really well with. We clicked straight away, and we were friends through the whole secondary school, and we are till to this day. But obviously the big thing of that was that we were all Christians, and I think that really helped sort of probably the grounding, and we could encourage one another through school, through exams. We could talk about church. That definitely influenced me massively through my teens. And in year 11, when I met my now wife, which is like 10 years ago now, she took me to a whole new level with my relationship with God. And she is amazing. She's amazing support. The fact that she's left her whole life to come with me and support me says it all. But in terms of when I met her for the last 10 years, we both were Christians, both brought up in a similar upbringing, and we both just gone on this journey together, and we just both wanted to take not just our family's sort of Christian upbringing, we wanted to do it ourselves, and we wanted to just go on the journey together. So that's where it all started, really, yeah.
This is where it becomes seamless, because we were about to talk to everyone about your life away from the church. So you talk about your wife, Bethan, and you were 15 when you got together?
We started talking at 15, but we didn't go out to 16, so yeah.
Yeah. And it transpires, and we'll come on to your career a little bit later, but her granddad was actually the chaplain at Bristol City, where you were in the academy as well.
Yeah, which is quite funny. Yeah, when I got to know her, I knew her through school, etc., but we actually got to know each other in RE as well at school, which was quite funny. But through that, I found out that her grandpa was a chaplain at Bristol City, the first team, and he's done it for 40, 50 years, still doing it now in his mid-80s. And before I knew her whole family were Bristol City season ticket holders, and the fact that I was in the academy at the time was just quite a funny thing, really. And I was seeing her grandpa at the training ground at football. It was quite a weird dynamic, but one that was really helpful for me, and to see a familiar face, and and also to feel supported from a chaplaincy at a club as well was always also really helpful.
And one other thing I wanted to touch on that has played a big part in your life is Christians in sport, because that's something you've spoken openly about before. Tell those that don't know what it is and what involvement you've had with them over the years.
Yeah, so like I said, there's something called Christians in Sport, which is basically a support network, an organisation that supports like footballers, Christians in sport, basically. There's different sectors, there's rugby, there's cricket, there's Olympics, but obviously there's a football side of it. And I got someone in our church in Bristol, knew someone that worked for Christians in Sport, and knew that I was coming through as a Christian in football, and got me connected with, you might know him, but Linvoy Primus, who played for Portsmouth years ago. I think he was very open that he was a Christian in his time, and was a Portsmouth legend in his time, and I think he won the FA Cup as well around Harry Redknapp's time. And through his influence, he obviously worked for Christians in Sport. Didn't know him, but once I got in contact with him, he's been ever so helpful, like a mentor in terms of, getting me connected with other Christians in football to feel supported. And we do Bible studies on Zoom with other footballers to talk about Christianity, but also to talk about our struggles in football and how it is difficult, the challenges, the pressures. And he's still, in communication with him now, a massive influence in terms of going through football. Because the unknown is there, but he's done it at the top level. And for me to have that support through it, football and through my faith was great. And we're still really good friends now.
And it is really encouraging to see people stepping out and making those statements, because we've seen recently, certain things seem to be acceptable. Publicised in the professional game, but wearing an armband that says Jesus loves you gets criticised. So that's the day and age we're living in. So actually having people from that standpoint being able to support you must be really helpful and really important.
It's massive. And even, like I said, just seeing people on the news getting criticised or whatever, showing that they're following God is always encouraging for someone like me. Probably encouraging for anyone, but especially for someone that's in it with similar challenges and good things and bad things through it. You obviously get people, they get it and they want to share that, and that's obviously part of why I'm here tonight. But it's great that I see people like that do what they do, and it encourages someone like me to do it as well.
That's brilliant. We're going to move on to your football now. So obviously grew up in Bristol. You initially trialled with Bristol City at the age of 7.
Yeah, so it started at 7, I suppose, my football journey. Growing up, I was quite shy and quite quiet and not really confident in myself. And I was used to just being comfortable with playing with my mates on a Sunday or whatever. But yeah, I had a trial at 7 or 8, and the level, I can't remember how hard it was, but just my personality just couldn't handle it. Even at that age, it felt very pressurized to, be the best, to be the main man, or boy, even at that time. But it just felt very pressurizing to me. So my parents could see that I was struggling, probably mentally, that I just couldn't handle it, basically, and it wasn't where I was comfortable. So they said, let's just leave it. Let's leave whatever the decision would have been, and let's just go back to playing fun football, basically, with my mates, and just see where it goes. Thankfully, I didn't have parents that were pushy and like, no, you need to do it. They were happy with me to be like, you're not ready, so just wait if it ever happens again, I suppose. But yeah, started it there. I just played local football on a Sunday in a good league where I was, and through the years of maybe 10, 11, 12, there was a Southampton academy campus in Bath, which is not too far from Bristol. And I got invited there just to train for a couple of years, like a little soccer schools. And I remember that being a really good part of my technical skills and just getting a really good coaching, which helped my development at the time. But again, I didn't want to take that professional step up, I suppose. So again, I did that for a couple of years, and then went back to Sunday League football. And I suppose academy-wise, I joined a little bit later. So I joined when I was 14 at Bristol City, which was the team that I supported. It was my local team, and it was that was the pinnacle, I suppose, at that age to play at football level. And I just remember when I went on trial there, I was just enjoying it, and it was just a really weird. I obviously matured and grown in whatever way up to that point. But I remember being on trial, and after a couple of weeks, I got told, "Oh, you're getting signed," and I was just like, I couldn't believe it because it was just a dream. It was like, wow, and just going back to my faith, I just wanted to praise God. Even at 14, I was like, I just don't feel confident or good enough to be here. But they want me, and it was just an amazing time to experience. Like, part of my journey was like, yeah, you got signed in a place where you didn't feel like you could ever do it, but God was like, yeah, you can do it, and that just gave me real encouragement. And I just remember going home from a trial game and getting told that, and just wanting to praise God so much. And I guess from there, do you want me to share onto my scholarship and whatever, or?
Yeah, I mean, keep going.
Yeah, keep going. And yeah, I was at Bristol City through the academy for a couple of years. Some of you might know then it finishes at 16, and then you get told if you're going to get a scholarship or not, which is 2 years of part-time college and then full-time football. Thankfully, I was able to get one. I think we had 8 or 9 in our age group that got one because we had quite a good age group. And then the scholarship, you go through that for 2 years, and then you're sort of got your eye on the college work, but you're sort of focusing on the football because you don't want to do the college work, you just want to do your football, don't you? So, I was privileged enough to not just do full-time college. I was able to do a bit of both. And then at the end of that scholarship, you basically get a decision on you whether you get a professional contract or not. And it's quite brutal as well. I had a letter to get told whether I get a professional contract or not. That's quite brutal, isn't it?
Especially when you're training with the club on a daily basis.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, at 18, the end of the scholarship, you get a letter through to say yes or no. I thankfully had a yes. I think I signed 2 years at that time, my first one. And yeah, again, that was all I wanted. It was all I dreamed of. It was just, I guess, going in my stride. I was just trying to do my best. Playing for my boy club and just enjoying it, and I was able to just carry on going up, which I wasn't aiming for, but it was just something that was naturally happening, and I was enjoying it. It was lots of ups and downs through that. You could say injuries, you could say not being in the team here and there through it. The first team manager's influence on the academy is really big as well, so if the first team manager gets sacked, that might change their decision on whether you get a professional contract or not. Just loads of factors basically, which you're learning through it all. But yeah, I was able to get a couple years contract at Bristol City.
So we'll jump to that time then. So that was around 2017. You get that first couple of years, and you had actually 3 loan spells during that first 2-year period, with Chippenham Town in the National League South. The same year you went to Bath City for the first time in the same league, and then the following year you did a season-long loan with Bath City, playing a large chunk of their games, 34 times that year, and at the end of that period rewarded with a 4-year contract to remain with Bristol City. So this is where things change. So you sign a 4-year contract, and they start sending you out on loan to league clubs.
Yeah.
So your first experience of Football League football was at Forest Green Rovers in the 2019-2020 season, and it is not lost on me that Forest Green Rovers being a vegan football club, we're talking about your professional debut whilst enjoying a hog roast. But that was your first taste of professional football. How as in league football, how did that feel for you?
Yeah, it was obviously the level, it was a real difference from being from National League South at Bath City, like you said, to going to League Two. Was a big step up. I went to a team that thankfully was suited to my style of play. I was still able to live at home. So in terms of everything was set up for me to do well as good as possible. I was only there for half a season. I actually got the 4-year contract from doing well at Forest Green, which is fine. But I was doing well at Forest Green for a couple of months, and that's where I got my 4-year contract at Bristol City, because the first team manager at City, I guess, was maybe looking at me to maybe come through the first team there. But yeah, it was really good experience. Again, eye-opening to the real world of football, how brutal it can be, how tough it can be. But I was enjoying it, and I was able to show what I could do. And it was a good time. It was a good, I guess, dream as well to be able to play at that level. And unfortunately, around that Christmas time, I got recalled back to maybe get into the first team of City, just to be around it. But in the first minute of like a training game, I was just going up to speed. I was back from my loan. I was a bit unfit. Let's get into the reserves just to get fit to hopefully go into the first team there. In the first minute, I broke my 5th metatarsal, which meant I was out for 4 or 5 months. So I was coming back to hopefully all this happening, and unfortunately that happened, and then COVID happened. So it was just a knock-on effect of from that injury onwards, it just pretty much went down. Went on loans to a few clubs, like you said.
Yeah, we'll touch on those other loans as well, but I just want to jump back to your professional debut. Saturday afternoon, I'm assuming August time. Where should you have been?
So my brother's wedding was on that day, and I was the best man as well. I should have been there.
But it all worked out, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because how did they compensate?
Yeah, but they understood, thankfully. The first league game of the season happened to be the day they booked in their wedding. But they were like, if you can't be there physically, then we'll just get a cardboard cutout, you can get like a life-size cardboard cutout. So they took a photo of me a few weeks before in my suit, and I was there, but not properly there. But thankfully, I was able to. We won on the gate. I played. We won. I was able to get back and still make the photos. So the photographer's car broke down, which meant I was able to make the photos, which was perfect. And it was a great evening. But they didn't bring it up at all, obviously.
Do they still bring it up now?
Yeah.
So you had that period and that injury. We'll get back to kind of moving through your career, and then you followed with loan spells further in League Two with Grimsby and then Gillingham. And then a bit of a gap. It would have been the tail end of COVID, but you didn't actually go out on loan again until the 22-23 season, where you had another season with Bath. How did that kind of feel from having these Football League loans and then it kind of almost petering out to dropping back into the National League?
Yeah, it was difficult to take. You'd see on paper that I've played for these clubs and I've got these appearances. You'd think you'd just stay at the same level or at least stay in full-time football at least, but football just doesn't work like that. You could have one really good season and that could get you really good, You move up any league, but if you have a really bad season or an okay season, it's really hard to get somewhere that you want to go and push on again. But yeah, like I said earlier on about my injury of going back to the City first team, the loans, like you said, just slowly got worse for me. Grimsby was really challenging. It was the first time I lived away from home. I went up there on my own. And Gillingham was the same. It was very difficult to get used to living away from home, but as well as having managers that weren't really backing you as well. And I got used quite a lot, especially going to Gillingham. I sort of was taken on loan just in case people got injured, which they obviously don't tell you at the time. But looking back, with how being a youngster and all this kind of stuff, you just got taken advantage of, really. So, and then confidence-wise, you've not played, you doubt yourself. And because of that, I had to go on loan to Bath City to stay local, to sort of find myself again. I think I lost my identity, and I just wanted to have a season where I knew I could play at the level because I've done it before. I knew the manager. It was just very much just get game time, and hopefully from there I'll be able to go up higher. And that was the whole aim of it, really.
And you played a number of games that season on loan, and then we get to the point where at the end of the 22-23 season, you don't get a new contract with Bristol City, your boyhood club, who you've gone through the academy. How did that affect you? And I suppose more importantly for us, how much did you look to God for your guidance on, what do I do next?
Yeah, it was very difficult to accept that. I was there for 10 years, had some really good moments, but the last few years was just really difficult. I sort of knew it was coming, that I wasn't going to stay. So in some way that helped, that I accepted that they're not going to extend my deal, or I've come at an age where I should be just getting games elsewhere, where, unknown to where that would be, but I knew my time at Bristol City was done, which, like I said, it was really difficult and challenging. But that is football, and it's really brutal, and that only leans me to back to my faith. I would look back at that time and see that God's always provided for me, and in every way, whether it's been good or bad, He's always been there for me. And I think even at that time, it was very much evident of that. And I knew that, okay, it's not what I wanted, but there's obviously, I believe I have a purpose and a plan that God's given me. That, okay, there's going to be something else that's going to come up.
We just don't always know what it is,
We just don't know what it is. But that's part of faith, isn't it? That you trust Him with things that you don't know, and that only strengthens yourself, I suppose, doesn't it?
Did you still have the desire to be playing professionally?
I did. Yeah, I did. I just didn't know what it looked like. And because I was on loan at Bath City, it just looked like I was, it probably looked on the outside that I was done with football, just going to start a new job or whatever, but I was very much wanting to go as high as possible still and stay in football for as long as possible, but it was just very difficult because there was no options coming up, because I've had a season that a lower league coming from where I was, and I had an okay season, but not an amazing season, and being the midfielder of what I do, I'm not a striker that would get 20 goals and then you can go up. With my position and how I play, it's a little bit more, I hope someone sees me in a different way, but that's not always possible. But in the summer, I just had to go stay at the same level, and I joined Weston-super-Mare. And yeah, that was sort of my next stage, was to accept that I'm going to have to stay at this level and hopefully get higher again. That was the sort of, at the moment, at that time, that was the aim.
So this for me is where your story takes a little bit of a turn, because this is where other agents start getting involved, and you don't know really where you're going. And talk us through this short journey. We're going to get up to the point where you joined Southend, but that interim period where you've now signed a contract with Weston-super-Mare in the National League South, to the point where you get contacted by Southend United.
Yeah, so before I joined here, the summer of that, because I joined the end of December here, a lot happened within that 6 months. During, like I said, about the football going down, I had this personal situation as well that was really affecting my football as well. And so it was football not going so well, things outside of football not going so well, which led me to go to Bath, which led me to go to Weston-super-Mare, where I just had to feel happy. I tried to feel happy and just see where it takes me. Joined Weston-super-Mare. I even had to go on trial there just to sort of show what I could do, because it sort of wasn't good at all. But went on trial there, got fixed, had a little injury, and after a couple of weeks, they wanted to sign me. Thankfully, my agent put into my contract at that time, because it's part-time, if a full-time team comes in for you, then I can go for free. And Weston were very much happy with that.
I mean, that's lucky, because we had no money.
Yeah, you know what's coming. But in terms of that at the time, that was weird how they accepted that so comfortably. But obviously, looking back now, that was obviously a massive blessing. But at that time, where I didn't know where I was going, I had something in my contract that I can go to a full-time team for free anytime. So that was really good. So the aim was to go higher, basically. So I stayed at Weston for a couple, I was there for 4 or 5 months. I didn't even start the season in the starting lineup, so it was still, because things were going on off the field as well as football, it was just very much it was difficult. Football wasn't enjoyable again, which is hard, because you love it and you want to do things right and you want to go higher, but I just wasn't able to. Things outside of football took over. It was the priority. It was the right thing to do, but that meant that my football would lack. So it was always that continuous, okay, this is first, and then football is second, because this off-field situation it's more important. So with this all going on, like you said, an agent, after a couple of months at being a Western, I was able to get into the team and sort of solidify my position in that team. This agent knew my dad through whatever, and he said, he was a bigger agent, so he said, I don't want to sign you up, but I'll do you a favour and get you to a higher club if you want it, basically. Which is quite unusual to get. Whether my dad and him got on really well, I'm not too sure, but it was quite an unusual thing to happen from what I knew in football, that a random agent would say to you, I'll just help you for free and get you somewhere full-time. Long story short, spoke to the agent. He said, I can get you higher. I was like, okay. So give me a couple of weeks to go over this, because there's something more than just football that's going on, in terms of it's not as easy as to say, yes, let's go. So give it a couple of weeks, and me and my wife would go away, and when we'd pray about it, and we'd ask God, is this the right thing to do? There's something going on off the field that is influencing everything. It's more important, and suddenly to go away from Bristol, to start a new church, to start a new life, just it felt really foreign, and it didn't feel comfortable at all. So we spoke to a couple of people at our church in Bristol that we got on really well with, and again, we prayed about it together, and we actually came to the decision to say no to this agent, because things still weren't good off the field. I still wasn't even on the pitch feeling myself, and you're in the zone, and you're able to, it also feels natural. It just felt a burden to play football. So we were basically saying to God, do you want football to continue or not, basically? Because why wouldn't you take this opportunity to go higher for free, basically? So we came to the decision to say, it felt like after prayer, after speaking to these couple of people, that God was saying to say no to it. So we said no to this free opportunity to go full-time, basically.
Do you feel effectively you were saying no to football?
We were both saying no to football, and on the back end of that, I started a job, a normal job, that was just delivery driving, basically. So from that agent conversation of saying no to football and to him, he understood, thankfully. But I was like, I'm just gonna have to carry on playing at Weston-super-Mare for as long as possible, and I'm gonna have to just work my way up. And I don't know what I was doing, but I was just starting a delivery job to sort of work out what we wanted to do going forward. And as soon as I said no to this agent, football for me, there was like a massive weight off my shoulders, and giving God basically my future career, our lives. You're thinking about finances, you're thinking about everything of, okay, God, we're giving you this. I don't know why you wanted us to say no to this agent, but we feel like you do. So we said, okay, we're going to stop football, carry on with Weston, and start a new job, like I said. So that carried on for a couple of months. And it came to maybe November, October time of that season.
I'm just going to stop you there, because this is the point where we realise God's goodness, because you get contacted by someone from the greatest football team based on the Essex Riviera. Where do we go from there?
So I was delivery driving on a Friday. I had a call from my agent I was still with, and he said, I know when he calls me there's something going on. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I haven't even told him I'm basically stopping football, basically. Don't worry about it. I'm fine with where I am. And he called me and said, well, I basically explained to him, yeah, I've started a new job and sort of stopping football and, all this kind of stuff. And he said, well, this club, Southend United, are really interested in you. They've been watching you for like a month. I even was scoring during that time, which I know is rare, which says a lot, but I was just
It's not all about the goals.
But, it was all just going so well, but it was just, what we wanted. But this came up just out of nowhere, which was really shocking. Because as soon as I had that conversation, he said, John Still, which you might know is the head of recruitment at Southend, my agent said, oh, John Still wants to meet up with you next week just to talk to you, basically. Try and sell the club to me and go from there.
Yeah, that's the bit that intrigues me, because we're talking about at a time, sell the club to you. We're massively in debt. We've got new owners coming in and they're bankrolling the club, but they don't own it yet. And although we want to sign you, we can't actually sign you because we're under a transfer embargo.
Yeah. So it sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
How much of this were you actually aware of? Because I know eventually there was a lot of supporter unrest, and it did eventually hit the national news about the plight of Southend United, a club over 100 years old with Football League history throughout their career until these last few years. For want of a better phrase, absolute basket case.
Yeah, I was, John did say, a lot of it was quite honest in terms of where the club's been and what was happening at the time. I didn't know a lot about Southend in general, probably because I was on the other side of the country and never really played against Southend or anything like that. So I just never really had any. I didn't know too much about the club, basically, which was why it was so intriguing just to go to him and see what he says. He said about the financial difficulties. He said what they've been through, but was also saying, there's people interested, and that they obviously want to take the club in this direction and that direction, which obviously is an exciting project to sort of get excited about and that kind of thing. He said how, said to me about the manager. He said about the style of play, living, what it's like to be there, and he basically just said everything about Southend. So it was literally up to us whether we wanted to make that decision or not.
So how did that come about then? Because it wasn't obviously a decision you made on your own, was it?
No. In terms of going through that decision again, we had that conversation, and it was like, okay, this is a bit out of nowhere, but we're going to think about it. So we said to him, just give us some time, give us a couple of weeks, and we'll let you know, basically. So we did the same process as the first agent. We prayed. We went to people that we trusted, and we prayed about it together. Me and my wife, we were making a joint decision on it, and basically, it was really weird. As soon as we had that conversation with John Steele, and the personal situation that I talk about that was happening off field was improving, and that was interesting to listen to and to see for me. And my football again, I was enjoying it and I was feeling free. But it was very confusing to think, wait a minute, God, you still said that football is done now, and this really good opportunity's come up to play full time, to go to this big club because you're saying about all these amazing fans, and obviously the project of the future and the targets. But we went, like I said, we went through this process, and he also said to us as well during that time that we could go and visit to basically get a feel of the place, speak to the manager in person.
And you still came back?
Yeah. And yeah, it was, but the great thing about it was that it was our decision. We weren't forced, we weren't pressured, and it was like, okay, what are we going to do, basically? So through praying, through speaking to those people, like I said, it seemed that our hearts were changing to basically move to Southend. And we said, going into the overnight stay of being here, if we feel comfortable, we'll do it, even though it made no sense, and it was such a mental shift of no to yes. That's quite hard to change, and the future looked very different at that point. So yeah, we obviously went to the overnight stay, but to sort of leave you before that decision, which you obviously know what happened, but in terms of, it was really funny as well how he described how they found out about me, because I'm obviously from playing for Weston-super-Mare. It's the complete opposite side of the country. He never went to Weston-super-Mare. I was playing a team called Tonbridge, which you might know of, which is like London-based. So he told me this obviously in person when I saw him. He said Southend didn't have a game on that weekend, so him and the gaffer now went to watch Tonbridge against Weston-super-Mare. And the only reason why he was watching Tonbridge is because he was doing a favour for an ex-player that he said, my younger brother's all right in midfield, go and have a look at him, basically. Because I think Southend were looking for a midfielder because of the transfer embargo. They could start signing new players, and they also wanted to strengthen their midfield. So they went to Tonbridge, him and the manager, to look for this ex-player's brothers, in midfield. I was obviously there on that day, and coming from that game, they didn't spot him out, they spotted me out. And I just thought it was quite amazing how I had no idea what was going on, but they were there watching me on that game. Obviously, if I stayed at Weston and played Tonbridge at Weston, they wouldn't have saw me. But they saw me in London, and that was the start of them being interested in me. And they sent out scouts to my next fixtures for the next month. I was playing at St Albans, which is local again to here, Dover, which is not too far. And after, going through that football process, they decided that they wanted to sign me. So he said all this in person, and again, it was like, wow, that's quite unreal that they looked for someone else and they came out with me. So yeah, and obviously with the whole situation going outside of football and things starting to get better, and it just all came together that God was like, I know I said no before, and you trusted me with that, and now I've got this situation which I want you to go, basically. So we stayed overnight, and we felt comfortable, felt happy, and with everything going on at the club, anything could happen at the club, we were going because God was like, you need to go. And so we obviously felt comfortable, and we decided to join.
And here you are.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to quickly scoot through the last 18 months, firstly. So the transfer embargo was lifted. December 23, you signed at Southend, 2.5-year deal. That first half of season, you were in and out of the team a bit, really, finding your feet back in full-time football. And then we get to the 24-25 season. And up until Good Friday, you were the only player in the Southend squad to have played minutes in every single match last season, just gone. And then you picked up that injury, which meant actually you missed the tail end of the season, which I think we can all imagine would have been absolutely gutting, particularly with that evolving to the late charge for the playoffs and making it to Wembley. But I think the key points from me on that area is we had the end of season awards in April, and for you as a professional player, you were third in the voting from the supporters, but you're also third in the player of the season voting from your peers, from your colleagues. How does that feel when the people you play with are saying, he's a player?
Yeah, it's obviously probably the award as a player that you value the most in some ways in terms of professionalism. You're with them every single day, day in, day out, and you've gone through this whole journey, and you're sort of trying to prove your worth, get respect from the players, and as amazing as it was to get from the fans and the sponsors or whatever it was, which I was incredibly grateful for, to also get it from the players was definitely was appreciated. And I didn't come here, as you know, to sort of get all these awards and all these kind of thing, but it was just a nice little encouragement to me to be backed and felt like I had a good season, which was nice. Yeah.
And it would have been hard to beat Gus scoring
no one could beat
17
him,
goals from right back.
Yeah, I couldn't beat him. Yeah.
So Wembley, very very quickly on this one, because I don't want you to make feel about it. What's it like being there when you're not getting on the pitch because of your injury?
Yeah, it was quite an emotional day, to be honest. The whole build-up, you're still with the lads, you're still part of it, but you just know that you're not going to be on the grass playing and trying to influence it. And obviously that's probably the pinnacle of any footballer's dream, is to play at Wembley. Especially since I've been there, the bug of getting promoted to EFL is massive. And to have not done that, the result-wise, but to not be a part of it anyway was difficult. Again, not every day I always fought it, but I definitely trusted God with that plan. I don't know why I was injured, and it was really frustrating, to play all those minutes. To felt like I had a good season, and to not be part of any of the playoffs was difficult to take, but something that I'm trusting God with, and hopefully in time I'll know. But if I don't, it's still okay as well. And to be a part of Wembley in general was an amazing experience. I'm sure most of you might have been there as well. It was an amazing day.
Many at Wembley?
Yeah. So as you know, obviously the result was deflating and horrible, but to see that many fans there was amazing.
A lot of people.
And for me, just to be around the team, to try and help the team as much as possible was something that I tried to do and add. But obviously good in moments, but obviously the result would have changed the day completely. But to not play as well was tough, yeah.
Last area I want to touch on before we'll pray for you, and I appreciate we've done a lot of talking. What we'll do is we'll end it. Those that want to stay and do a Q&A, if you're happy, we'll do. But obviously I don't want people to feel pressurised because it is getting a bit later now. But it's dressing room dynamics. You share the dressing room with a lot of people. One in particular springs to mind from this last season, first half of the season, George Moncur. Complete opposite to you character-wise, but very, very vocal about his faith. In general, how do you find it in these environments, and how was it with people like George in the dressing room? Yeah,
obviously it brings its challenges, like probably any workplace would, but definitely a very masculine changing room is difficult. Being a Christian, a lot of areas that they might enjoy and sort of talk about it's uncomfortable at times, but you get used to it, and I have done, because I've been, thankfully I've been in some change rooms where, everything's happened and you get used to it in time. But I think it's important I believe in this, and it's changed my life, and I want to, try and be a little more like Jesus as much as possible. And if I can, try and show that in a change room where not many people would even know anything about God, then hopefully from me acting in a certain way, which I try to do, which I don't always do very well, but if I try to do my best, and then someone will maybe ask a question, or why do you, it's come up before that I don't swear, or something like that, why don't you swear, or anything like that, it's like, why don't you do this? And thankfully I've had conversations at whatever club that I've been at, they've asked about, why are you a Christian, or why do you do this and why do you do that? So it's difficult, and thankfully, like you said, but it's good as well, because that's why, God wants me in there for a reason, like anyone else in any other workplace. You're there for a reason, and you've got to trust in what you believe and try and work with that. But, like you said about George Moncur, would say in any interview, say it in any way, and obviously a bit more of an introvert would just do it in a different way. But we believed in the same thing, but I think it was good for people just to see different personalities being a Christian as well, because we're all different and we all have good gifts that we can use. And he was great at just vocalizing his faith basically through whatever he does. And we actually got on really well, and started doing Bible studies together. So we, on away games or whatever, we'd we'd come together before a match and we'd pray together and do like a little Bible study. And I don't know if you remember Ben Peppel as well. He was a Christian as well, and it was a really good group of us that we were all just genuinely, asking God for help in football, basically, and encouraging one another, looking after one another. I've never had that before at a club where we've done Bible studies and prayed together before a match or whatever. But it was really helpful and really encouraging, and it gave us all a boost and gave us confidence to sort of in the changing room banters or where, you got to stand firm in your faith. It was encouraging and really good for that. So he was great, Ben Peppel was great, and it's a shame they obviously left. But for the 6 months that we had together, it was the months I won't forget, because it was just such a unique thing that I'd never had before, which was great.
That's really encouraging. I've got one last question before I'm going to pray for you, if that's okay. Mr. Reliable, doesn't swear. I'm going to go for doesn't lie either. You've got 12 months left on your contract. Do you want to extend and stay?
Getting tested here, and I've like I said to my story, it's the only thing that we've ever thought of since you've come here, and generally me and my wife are really settled here. God's provided so many good things here that why would we want to leave? He's provided us with a church that we're settled at, which are really good for us. We just have lovely friends and support there. We enjoy living this way, this part of the world. The club is, the size of it is incredible. The amount of fans we get at Roots Hall and at Wembley is just amazing as a player to be a part of that. And ever since I've moved here and we've moved there, we've felt very much a part of it. So I don't know why I'd want to leave. So hopefully,
as a fan, that's fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pray for you quickly, and then I say we'll get some lights on, because all I'm seeing is bright lights right now. Do feel free. You don't need to stay, but if you'd like to hang around and have this Q&A or hear these answers from some quite interesting questions that have been posed, feel free. But let's pray first. Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you for James, and we thank you for him being willing to come and share his story with us tonight. Pray that you will keep your arms wrapped around him as he moves through his career, and you will help him to keep being that light shining for you and showing his love for you, Lord. And hopefully that will be demonstrating in the responses from his colleagues and from fans that hear his story too, Lord. Most importantly, we pray for that left foot, and that it will guide us to plenty of goals and promotion from the National League this season, Lord, doing what it does best. Pray this in your mighty name. Amen. Right, big round of applause for James, please. Thank you very much. I say, do not feel obliged to stay, but I have got a handful of questions here for anybody that want to hear them.
Should I be worried or not?
I mean, how much of a challenge as a Christian is it to navigate dressing room banter that goes too far?
There's a line, I suppose. So I don't mind any banter that flies my way. Being a Christian, I've had it loads for years. It's just part of it. It's a good thing, I think. It's, they recognise you as a Christian. They want to laugh with you. I don't see it ever being a problem. I've never had, thankfully, anything that has been a negative experience being a Christian. So I'm grateful for that. I know not everyone's story is that, but the banter is obviously really funny, really good. Some of it's past the line, like I said. So there's things that I get involved in, some things that I don't, depending on that. But there's lots of it, as you can imagine. But
yeah.
But no, it's I feel comfortable as how God's made me and who I am. So that's helpful with that banter, I suppose.
I'm going to leave that big question till last. Do you get any media training and advice on how to deal with the public, or is it just a case of crack on?
I haven't had any media training. I think as I'm a football fan, I've watched loads of media football fan, players doing it. So I guess you just pick things up through that. Yeah.
Have you ever tried another sport seriously, like what could have been a professional level, or has it always been football for you?
I've not pushed anything particularly. I enjoyed all sports. Maybe rugby was something that someone, you hear about a secondary school teacher saying you could do this and that. Rugby might have been something that, but it was always football, obviously.
It was always football.
Yeah.
Do you feel, because of your faith, your lifestyle and playing is scrutinised more?
You say the way I play, or sorry?
As in being a Christian, just in general, your lifestyle and your playing.
I don't know really. I think everyone can speak for themselves. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. To be fair, I would say no. I don't get more scrutiny because I'm a Christian. It maybe stands out to a lot of people. Hi, I'm a Christian, and I guess opinions come your way, but I wouldn't say it's more than other people know.
Well, there's a couple of here we've pretty much answered. What's the strangest pre-match superstition you've seen?
What, in the change room?
Yeah.
Who does something?
As long as it's not X-rated, I don't want to.
I think a typical one would be someone would just put their left shoe on, left boot on before their right. I don't know too many superstitions in the team, to be fair, but I think there's a few boys that would do certain things like that, that would feel like they're prepared for the game. Yeah.
These two I'm going to link together slightly, and it's going to be the last two questions for the night. Firstly, what's it like playing for Kevin Mayer? And then you won't remember it, but do you think you would have wanted to have played during, it would have been the late 90s into early 2000s? We had a double promotion winning team. Steve Tilson was manager. Kevin Mayer was captain in the middle of the midfield.
I guess to answer your first part of the question, what it's like to play under him. Yeah, he's obviously a midfielder himself, and you can see the way he would coach us midfielders. That is obviously he's good to learn from in terms of experience and that kind of thing. And obviously the fact that he brought me in as well, it's obviously a big part of, you feel very much like, okay, wanted, and he knows what player that you were like in the first place. So it's obviously good to play under him, and being a midfielder, you try and pick things from his game. And as long as the rest, like the other coaches and the coaching staff, they're all really good and they're all played in the game, all really experienced. So yeah, it's good to play under him. And remind me the second part of the question?
How do you think you would have wanted to have played alongside him?
I've never actually really watched the way he played.
Sideways.
Was he technical?
That's honest.
Was he technical?
More technical than anything else. He wasn't a bruiser. Let's put it that way.
Well, I guess you like a balance in the team. If he was someone to win the ball back and give me the ball, then I would love to play with him. But
left foot, right foot.
Yeah, could have worked. Who knows?
He scored a few goals as well. Not many, but he did.
Same
score
as me
a few.
then. Yeah.
That's the lot for tonight. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I know it's been a long evening, but please, can we just give James our appreciation? A big round of applause for joining us tonight.